June 5th, 1990. It was a Tuesday. My girlfriend had been away at her brother's college graduation. And she was coming home, and we were going to be able to hang out and spend our 9-month anniversary together. I remember she had been horribly sunburnt because Rochester Springs are like they are, and she went and spent the weekend underneath the sun. She came over, we exchanged gifts, hung out, had dinner with my family, then sadly, she had to go home. I like to pretend I went and did homework and something productive, but I was a second semester senior. That wasn't happening. I watched some TV, then I went to bed. As I was fading off to sleep, I heard my parents start yelling at each other. Now, they weren't the Cleavers, the Keatons, or Huxtables, loved each other, but they did have fights. So I didn't really think much of it. I was like, oh, here we go again. But then it changed. I started hearing dishes breaking. I started to realize that something was not right. So I got out of bed, was heading towards the door. That's when the lights went out in my house. I was very disoriented, and I heard from the steps my dad scream, "Get out of the house." I opened up the door, my lungs filled with smoke, felt his hands on me as he grabbed me and shoved me down the stairs. I stumbled out to my front lawn, wearing just a pair of sweatpants, and then the fire engines came. The sirens blaring, very disorienting. One of our dogs, the only one that survived, came running out of the house, right up to me, which was weird because she hated me. She hated me with a passion, and yet even she knew something wasn't right. I lost everything I owned, except for a pair of sweatpants and an acoustic guitar that somehow survived the flames. Most of my senior friends, their summer, went out and partied and did what you're supposed to as a senior. I got to deal with a massive insurance claim and plans to rebuild our house. Flash forward, June 2nd, 1991. I had been hanging out with my girlfriend. I was borrowing my mom's car. It was pretty low on gas, so I figured I'll do the nice thing, fill it up, bring it home. Started pumping the gas. Felt a little pain in my chest. Hit pretty hard, but went away, so I didn't think much of it. Then it came back with a vengeance. I could not catch my breath. I had to curl my arm up next to me just to even manage the pain. I was an idiot. I was 19 years old. I finished pumping the gas. It was close to home. I was like, I'll drive home. Yeah, exactly. Pulled into the driveway, and I knew something was wrong. I walked into the family room, plopped into a chair, and told my dad, hey, something's not right. Started talking to me, asked me a couple questions, realized it wasn't right. Had my mom call 911, just tried to keep me calm. Ambulance got there. They started asking me questions, and they did their best to stay calm, but I could tell that they were freaked out as well. They threw me in the ambulance, sirens blaring, rushed to the hospital, went right into a room to be seen by a doctor. Never a good sign when you don't wait in the waiting room at the emergency room. Thankfully, it wasn't a heart attack like they all thought. It was just a collapsed lung. But I had a moment. Yeah, think about that. When do you ever say, oh, it's a collapsed lung, yes! But what ended up happening is I did have a moment there for at least an hour where I felt like I was spending my last day on this planet. And it was a pretty crazy thing to deal with as a 19-year-old. Flash forward to my 30s. I working a very successful job, clean-shaven, wearing a shirt and tie, going to an office every day, making more money than I ever had in my life, and I was miserable. I was a very bitter human. I wasn't a good husband. I had stopped playing guitar. I just was lost. Thankfully, my wife came up to me and said, hey, we should have a third kid, and you should be a stay-at-home dad. I got a chance to have a reset button on life. At 18, I lost everything I owned. At 19, I thought I was going to die. At 33, I was able to get a chance to get a reset button on life and really rethink how I wanted to live my life going forward. These 3 moments were very impactful on my life and helped me to put together sort of my 4 guiding rules that I use in my day-to-day life. The first rule, don't let others define you. I spent my life chasing the American dream that was someone else's American dream and not my own. I was supposed to live in a house in the suburbs, 2-car garage, 2 kids, 9-to-5 job. But I lost all the things that made me who I was, which leads to my second rule, find your happy. Ultimately, I love my family, I love music, and I love beer. This body doesn't happen by accident. I was able to start brewing beer with my neighbors, which has now evolved into us opening a brewery. I picked up my guitar again and formed a band, and I've had some fun with that as well. It was an ability to reshape my life and put all these passions together and actually live with a purpose. I was working more hours than I ever had before in my life, working harder than I ever had in my life. I was a 40-year-old guy throwing kegs around for a living, which sucks. But I could not have been happier. I was a better human. I was a better father. I was a better husband for it. My third rule comes from one of the greatest men I ever knew, my Uncle Pat. He was a man who had 6 kids, sadly had to put 2 of them into the ground, and yet never once did I see him unhappy, bitter, or unwilling to not be there for someone to be helpful. He always used to tell me, Geoff, doesn't matter what you do in life, leave it better than you found it. And what he meant was, you could be walking by a piece of trash in the ground, pick it up and throw it away. Or it could be as simple as, or complex as, I guess, I would say, you get a call from one of your friends or family members across the country that are in a moment of need, and you get in your car, you get on a plane, you get there, and you drop everything and you be there for them. But in some way, you gotta always make sure to leave it better than you found it. The final rule, but arguably the most important, don't be a dick. Too often in this world, we seem to not grasp the concept that we are one of billions. We really, not to be negative, but we really don't matter. I mean, but what we can do is we can actually help others and help them. Everyone's going through a struggle of some kind. You've been hearing it all day. Everyone is going through a struggle. It doesn't take much to just be like, hey, how are you? And actually listen to them. You know, go out of your way to try and make life better for other people. I can guarantee you if you do this, it's gonna come back to you multiple fold. So in closing, remember, find your passion, chase after your passion. If you find your passion, nurture it, care for it, cherish it. Be nice to other people. Live a life that is bigger than yourself. And most importantly, leave it better than you found it. Thank you.